Question number 6 is going to make you think. So this is going to relate back initially to question number 2. Are you able to simplify both parts of this expression and then eventually write it in rational form? And by the way, if there's no real portion, I could have put 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus I squared to 5. But let's go down here. So I'm going to start by looking at this and asking myself, really, what does that mean? Well, let's first look at the base of this. I can't take the square root of a negative, so that negative sign is going to become an I, and then I recognize that the square root of 8 is the same as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And I'm going to raise that to the 5th power. Now that has to be shared with each one of these. Each one of these must it be shared with. So let's go on to the next part. So I have I to the 5th because I to the 5th power. Now I know that this means the square root of 4 is 2. So I have 2 to the 5th power. I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. Excuse me. And then I have the square root of 2 to the 5th power. The square root of 2 to the 5th power. Well, what is the square root of 2 to the 5th? That means we're going to take it times itself 5 times. These are like terms, and so I'm able to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. This is 32. This is the square root of 32. This is a 32 out front. 2 to the 5th is 32. And now remember, just like we did previously in number 1, where I grouped up, if you haven't watched number 1, I took these 12 i's and I put them into groups of 2. I's always go into groups of 2. I'm going to do the same thing here. So I have 5 i's. So I have I, and a leftover I. Each one of the I squared, or i's as a pair, is a negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1, but there's this remainder I. So I have a plus 1 remainder I. To keep working at simplifying this in full capacity here, the square root of 32 breaks into 16 and 2. And I don't have to put a plus 1 if I don't want to. Any other number other than positive 1 would have to go in front. The square root of 16 is 4, so I need to come off to the side. What is 32 times 4? 32 times 4 is 128. So I believe my answer is I, 128 square roots of 2. Now it says to put it in this form. There's no real portion. So there's the real portion plus, and it looks like they like to have the I in back. So whether you put 128 square roots of 2 with an I in back, or if you put it in front or even in between, as long as it's not underneath the radical. Oh, I'm so sorry, you can't see that. As long as it's not underneath the radical, this would be fine. 0 plus 128 square roots of 2, I.